We are here at the end of 2020. We did it. And now to close the book on things, you knew it was coming, I knew it was coming. I'm gonna rank every single game that I played from 2020. And even games that didn't come out this year that I played for the first time. I didn't get to play too many new games this year because number one, well, literally my number one. And two, I was busy doing other things like dusting off my YouTube channel. That's why this list isn't a top 10 video games of 2020 list, because I didn't really play many of the games that people are losing their minds over. This is my list, uniquely me, and it's also full of opinions. Be ready for that. So let's go ahead and count down our blessings of the not so blessed year. You know how sometimes Nintendo will get all experimental and it's like, okay, cool, I see you, but please go back to how it was, don't do that again, this is not working. And they're like, nah, fuck you. Paper Mario the Origami King is miles past that, but like with Color Splash, they listened, just a little bit. Partners came back, kind of. And the game still manages to keep its tongue-in-cheek sense of humor amidst oddly dark moments. But holy shit, after close to a decade, they are still ignoring the big thing, like the only thing that I feel like Paper Mario needs, and that is experience points. Because without XP, you aren't doing anything for the stereotype that turn-based combat is slow and boring. Honestly, I totally agree with most people who say that RPGs suck because combat is unnecessarily repetitive, but one of the first games to show me how cool a battle system could be if done correctly was Super Mario RPG. To see that amount all the way to Thousand Year Door is cool, but then look at how much we've regressed. Puzzles? They have fucking puzzles? Imagine playing a game where they just randomly throw puzzles at you. Well, I mean like a bad one though. At first, the idea was kinda cool, kinda novel, until it's like your 10th time doing the exact same ring in the first dungeon, and that's when you realize that enemy encounters are just wasting your time. The game should be called Paper Mario Run the Fuck Away. Just imagine playing Breath of the Wild, and every time you come across an enemy, you gotta solve a Rubik's Cube. If this is the approach they were gonna go for, then I wish they would've just stuck with Super Paper Mario. But even outside of combat, why is picking up and throwing back confetti the integral game mechanic? This is just as repetitive and uncompelling as anything else. Seriously, I play games to have fun and forget the real world, but so many times over the course of this game I had to sit down and ask myself, why am I doing this? And why am I doing this again? No amount of confetti can fix the cracks of Paper Mario, the Origami King. Okay. I want to get real spicy for this next one. Probably due to the pandemic, we saw a lot of games in 2020 that were widespread cultural phenomena, only for everyone to kind of forget about them a little while later. There might be a Fortnite or Pokemon Go type of situation each year. This year there was like 5, and among these games to grace us was Among Us, sus. I'm not even going to bother explaining it because it was so popular that even just last month it still had 500 million players. I am sure you are well aware of what this is. But what I am here to say is, I don't get it. I avoided this game for a long time until last week when it was put on Switch's eShop. So then I played like 10 rounds of this with my friends, who were fun friends by the way, they're not the ones to blame. It's just this game is... ugh. I noticed right away that it was very similar to another game that I've played in the Jackbox Party Pack called Push the Button, where you have to do tasks to outline an opposing player acting as the alien, who is given different but very similar tasks. Together, the fleet needs to combine all noticeable inconsistencies in each other's testimonies and pinpoint a faker. And I hate this game. So I think when Among Us rolled out, the concept of a game built around social deduction and psychological manipulation, it was already pretty jaded to me. While I don't really have a reason to hate this game, I just was not having fun playing this, and people are addicted to it? I do not understand. There is a moral here. That moral is that some things are just not for everyone. It's been a long time since I felt betrayed by a teaser or trailer. I mean, the more my expectations break, the more I learn how much better it is to not have them. Am I right, fellas? But still, last year when they showed off Platinum's new action-adventure game on the Switch called Astral Chain, the trailer had me pretty frickin' hyped. And that really says something because I tend to keep my distance from new IPs until they are well-rounded with a consensus of approval, or in this situation, my brother enjoyed it, so he probably thought I would too. Astral Chain definitely excels with its visuals, the colors, the character models. That's probably why I fell for this trailer, although the music, the plot excerpts, the solid voice acting may also be to blame. And the game stayed faithful to this, but for as vibrant and alive as the environment is, the exploration is handicapped by the fact that it is mission-based. Not that it needs an open world, it needs a world. Most missions will carry you through a linear part of the city, and then into the freaking void you go. This is the common structure, and pacing issues quickly develop. The combat is built upon controlling 2 characters, so if you're me and poor at multitasking, it is a frustrating difficulty curve. And this is only made worse by the fact that when the Legion is free acting, it's controlled by AI, which can be a fucking noodle. But after later missions and lots of effort, I will say that you can master the system, and it's pretty satisfying to take down endgame enemies. Still, no amount of experience will help you with a badly designed boss fight.
Don't leave.
The story, I don't know what I was expecting from a Platinum story. Let's just say what I thought was depth was just convoluted, unresolved dummy text. And it closes with one of the most out-of-the-ass endings I think I experienced this whole year. So in summary, the game might have a bad story. Like many others, I love the GameCube for just how experimental its titles were at the time. Zelda was on an ocean, Star Fox was prehistoric, Metroid was in 3D, Kirby was in a racing spin-off, and Animal Crossing was, well, Animal Crossing. And it's not like Nintendo was doing this dance by themselves. Sega showed up to the Cube with a killer Sonic title and then took a break to give us chickens.
Look at all those chickens!
Billy Hatcher is one of those weird red flags where when you're looking at someone's criminal record, you wonder, where did it all go wrong? Boom, right here. I mean, this game is literally Sonic OC before Sonic OC was, well... But while weird in concept, the game has a lot of 3D platforming charm that signifies the era it was born in. Morning Land, yes that's what it's called, is made up of different landscapes, all with their own missions to collect an emblem, which are this game's stars if you want to compare it with Mario. They'll have you do things like race, or fight a boss, or do one of several incredibly frustrating and mandatory escort missions. Egg-scort. In terms of setup, it fits right in for the time, and is fairly quality, albeit some minor criticisms. I think it's lame that the world map isn't explorable but just a menu, the camera could use some adjusting, some of the controls for this game can clash with the physics, and the final boss was a mess. I swear to God, they took this dialogue word for word from Zelda and then have you hit his attack back at him, really, Billy? But outside of that, Billy Hatcher was a solid experience. Thank you, Caleb. I feel like every kid who's gone to public school and also played video games for a hobby has thought up a concept similar to Bully at some point in their lives. Just think about how cool it would be to have a school designed as an open world game, and Bully captures this imagination pretty well. Like, there's a lot of games that have school as some sort of component, but from what I've played, Bully gets the closest to the real deal, and that's mainly because the characters, who are one-sided or crazy or way too invested in themselves, I don't know man, high school is weird. The teachers especially, because I feel like so many of them are swift to judge you or generalize you, but then you'll find that one teacher who is just a complete delight and absolutely believes in everything you do. The factions thing is also pretty accurate. Bully has nerds, jocks, preppies, townies. My school had racists, and aspiring nurses. As the neutral player, you can get in good with these guys who will fight you less when you get the respect levels up, but becoming popular with one group usually means becoming less popular with the group they're at odds with. The gameplay, it's really just another take on 6th generation Grand Theft Auto, but one that had to meet a T rating. And if you don't find that in itself interesting, there's a bunch of fun mini-games that you can do in class as class that helps to improve your main character's abilities. Or you can just play their version of Punch-Out. Overall, very enjoyable game. It's too bad the sequel was canceled. I love Puyo Puyo. I do. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is likely my favorite game in the Sonic Mega Collection, and Kirby's Avalanche is also hilarious. So one day I was just vibing on the SNES Online app for Switch, and I saw they had Super Puyo Puyo 2 available, and I was like, yeah, I'll play that. And boy was it hard, even for a veteran like me. Maybe that's why they never localized it, because it was too difficult. Maybe it was because the final boss is Satan, who knows? I certainly don't. I don't want to spend too much time here. I already made a whole video with my thoughts on Persona 5 Royal, but I didn't really talk about the good stuff in that video though, and that's because there's a lot of it. Persona 5 is likely my second favorite game of all time, and this version gave it plenty of nice touch-ups. The combat is still just as stylish and to the point, the characters are well-written devices of immersion, and the villains are only getting more and more lifelike as time goes on. I realize in my criticism of this game, a lot of it had to do with price, but the game is actually kind of cheap now, so we can just throw that whole video out, except not actually. After lots of reflection, I realized this is still the best form of Persona 5. Why? Because they put Bossa Nova in the game, okay? Bossa Bias. Some of my favorite storytelling in video games comes from the Zero Escape trilogy, which I played on DS and 3DS, but the last game arrived in 2016, and after that, the director responsible for the writing went silent for a few years. But when in late 2019 I learned he had created a brand new game called AI the Somnium Files, available for PS4 and Switch, I scooped that bad boy right up, excited to see what he would bring us next. The game's overall plot is much more lighthearted and, dare I say, shallow than Zero Escape if it wasn't clear from just the art style, but it's still interesting and engaging. But the puzzles! Holy fuck, the puzzles. The only real form of gameplay are the dreams, and they make zero sense. Right from the get-go, you're told that when exploring dreams, the logic of the real world does not apply, meaning that you may as well just close your eyes and choose any of these options, as there is no reasoning. It's not also trial and error, and some of these dreams definitely have a sequential theme to them, but I'm fairly certain I had to repeat all of these except a few several times. The game kind of makes up for this though, because there's only like 13 of them, and that's spread across 25 hours of gameplay, so I hope you like cutscenes. And when this is the game in question, I do. I absolutely love these cutscenes. And I won't spoil, but boy was that ending something else. Okay. Growing up as a kid, I had 2 siblings and we'd all constantly fight over the TV. For this reason, my parents leaned more towards buying us multiplayer games like Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros., Wave Race, and No More Heroes 2. Just kidding, my parents never would have bought me this. I wish they had though. Granted, if they did, I probably would have been too young to enjoy Suda51's very odd style of executing dialogue, and everyone else. But it grips you very quick, just how strangely the game reflects on itself. Suda51 puts this vague sense of self-awareness into his games where it feels like after every big thing that happens, I have to pause and ask myself, did they really just do that?
Downward fucking dog!
Understand that I hate most beat-em-ups, most hack and slashes, because it's a lot of button mashing, and even if you can find ways to kill the enemies different or faster, you're still just getting the same scenario for a majority of the game. And that's a criticism that didn't really go away with No More Heroes 2. There's still long segments of just swinging the Wii Remote around, smacking enemies, especially towards the end of the game. But the bosses are what make No More Heroes 2. There are 15 fights where they will test your ability to use every mechanic you've learned in the game. Are they gimmicky? Yes, indeed. Are they still fun? Yes, indeed. Even if the final boss made me rage because of stupid camera angles, it was still a jolly good time. This game is also a sequel, and I need to acknowledge how it cuts out the tedious overworld of the first game in favor of a nice quick menu. Generally, I'm not a fan of this, but when the overworld is as empty as Santa Destroy, this saves a lot of time. Also, I did not know this when I played in February, but I watched Ichi the Killer for Halloween, and Takashi Miike makes an appearance in this game? Sign me up. If 2020 hit anyone hard, it was definitely, holy shit, the movie theaters, but also game developers who needed to work from home and adapt to a new creational environment. I believe it is for this reason that much of what we saw in 2020 was re-released content. And say what you want about Super Mario 3D All-Stars, but Sunshine has never ever been given the proper porting care that 64 and Galaxy received, and that's a damn shame. So when they announced this, I was all for it. I would gladly pay $60 for these games even if they're unaltered, because Sunshine itself is just about the same price on GameCube. And it's a decent job. The widescreen is nice. The controls were a bit weird to adjust to at first, and it sucks that they took months to add GameCube controller support, but I mean, they still work. But what I was really worried about at first was that Nintendo would do that thing where they casually make the game easier in their modern translations. You know what I mean? And to me, this game is just as hard as it was before. Either way, I'm so thankful that after 2 decades, they're finally showing some love to this wonderful game. In the same ballpark of games that I wish would have been remastered or remade, we have Xenoblade Chronicles. The year was 2015, and I had just finished my playthrough on the 3DS, which, oh my god, this was wretched. I don't know who they hired to do this, but like, damn! And it sucks because Xenoblade has a beautiful world packed with these tense, daring, emotional moments. Shit that you would never think that Nintendo would so proudly endorse. Its OST is amazing to cry to. This game has all the cards in its hands, but every time I'm watching these cutscenes, it is very hard to immerse witnessing these grain graphics. So, I wished for a remake or remaster to truly see this game achieve its potential, but I knew with the 3DS port that it would be very unlikely. Until this year, when they brought it to Switch in its full glory. It's all back, baby. Everything. Juju, Bestis, Territorial, Rop Art, and they added an epilogue segment, which was okay. But the main game, this is one of the finer titles, and its remake is well deserved. Let me put it like this. Original Xenoblade Chronicles I love, but not as much as Persona 5. Persona 5 is the pinnacle. However, I had more fun playing this game this year than I did Persona 5 Royal, because Monolith Soft knows how to do a remake. but I have to mention this. It came at a cost, and one that I'm still unsure how I feel about. See, the original Xenoblade Chronicles was a great JRPG because it did not feel like a JRPG. The battle system was unorthodox, the plot had more science fiction elements, there was minimal fan service, but the biggest thing was the character art style, and in remaking this game, I was really hoping to see the Switch do for these models what Wii and 3DS could not. But instead, they changed the art style altogether to have a closer resemblance to the second game, and it now looks significantly more anime. Do I like this? I don't know. I still don't know. Yakuza is one of those series that fluctuates with quality between each entry so that you never really know what you're gonna get. Could end up with an awesome game or a really stupid one. So it was to be expected that nobody knew what to make of the next game when the team came out and announced that Yakuza 7 was going to be turn-based. An idea so ridiculous that people thought it was an April Fool's joke when the very first trailer leaked. Fast forward a year and a half, a whole bunch of skepticism later, and Yakuza Like a Dragon is a damn fine successor. I definitely had my doubts in the first few hours on whether or not they could hand over the series to new territory without sacrificing identity. Turns out, they held too much onto that identity. The same map from the past 8 games, recycled plot tropes, recycled jokes. Fuck, they even found a way to justify recycled character models. And Ichiban initially seemed way too much like Kiryu as the good guy Yakuza. Like, why even bother rebooting the series if you're gonna repeat this much? But I'd say by the time you get your 4th party member, you can really start to see this game for itself. The old games, despite Kiryu having friends, or even other playable protagonists, you really don't get a feel for their bond because they don't share too much screen time together. This is especially true for the 5th game, but in Yakuza 7 you get to witness Ichiban's party develop beside each other, and in the process invite you into a social circle via immersion. I don't want to play the Persona Animal Crossing card that I play so much, but they're written so good that it feels like they're your actual okay, whatever. I was worried the combat might not be that good, but folks, it is indeed that good. It's a little bit easier than what you might expect until you get to Chapter 12. I will not spoil, but holy shit, Chapter 12 has the most excellent boss I have fought all year. That is a declaration. This was an amazing game. I really hope if Yakuza 8 is a thing, it invites us to look back at some of these characters. Alright, Game Awards, you didn't want to do it, so I will do it for you. I don't think this is going to come across as particularly shocking to anyone who's been on this channel, but Animal Crossing New Horizons, I'm convinced, saved not just me, but the whole ass planet. We were all so mad. I was pissed. This trailer said 2019, but then this trailer said 2020? And I was like, damn, I took the whole 4th quarter off. What am I supposed to do now? Go outside and do everything you possibly can, because by March we are going to all be sitting indoors miserable, or at least we were supposed to be miserable, but I would have it no other way. Animal Crossing released March 20th, and even if just for a little bit, the world calmed down. We took a break from all of the craziness to sit back and decorate our house, catch some fish, watch some shooting stars, pay off our debts, and to farm a bunch of Nook Miles tickets only to get really upset when you get cat like 3 islands in a row. Are you fucking kidding me, game? I don't know a single person who hasn't lost something this year. It certainly hasn't been easy, but everything that this awful pandemic took from us, Animal Crossing was so ready to give back. Friends, events, serotonin. I got to meet tons of wonderful people through the game who are just so fantastic, to the point where when I think back to those long spring nights, despite the very ugly circumstances, I tend to smile. It's probably the early beginnings of nostalgia, but give it a few years and I'll eventually think back to quarantine the same as the summer of New Leaf and the winter of City Folk. Times that were very dear to me. No, Animal Crossing New Horizons is not a perfect game, something that I and many others on this channel have echoed. But just like all of our islands, it is a work in progress. In closing, while this year has given us both plenty of awesome games and a reason to actually stay home and play them, New Horizons will always be the comfort that broke the fall. And for that, I am forever grateful.